This is MRN Out Loud on MRN.com, presented by Bloomin' Mondays at Outback Steakhouse. And also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse. After the racing at Richmond, under the lights for the first time at a short track in 2019. I'm Woody Kane, joined by Joey Meyer. Don't forget, though, folks, make sure you tune in next week as MRN heads to Talladega. It's all a part of Procore Week here on MRN. Little Joey is excited. You can go to Outback Steakhouse and get your free Bloomin' Onion because Kevin Harvick, their top 10, a week off for little Joey, but he's back on his game.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic weekend. Racing was really good. Again, Richmond is one of my 4 bucket tracks that I tell every race fan, if you've been to races and you haven't been there, you have to go. If you have a chance to go to your first race, Richmond's one of those places. Richmond, Bristol, Darling, Talladega, and Daytona are my 4. Every other track provides great opportunities, but it's a little unique at Richmond. Richmond is a short track, even though it's over a half mile versus the new Dale Jr. logic.
They call Phoenix a short track too.
Exactly. So it's interesting. But we saw the champion a couple years back. Never had won a short track race, Martin Truex Jr.
That's amazing.
We ran really well back in the Busch days at DEI and Chance 2 and could never get home a victory. One of the highlights of the weekend was them playing Martin on the wall, riding the wall in the 8 car back in the Busch days when he got him and Mike Wallace got together. Our luck was always, you never want to complain about luck, right? But it just seemed that's the way Kyle Larson's dealing with it now.
Boy, is he.
Back then, Martin Truex was dealing with it at Richmond and could never put a full race together. It wasn't easy because Clint Boyer and Joey Logano were in his deck lid.
They both threw haymakers
12,
at
15.
the end.
They were doing everything they could. Lap traffic was playing a part of it. Those really performed and executed a well-rounded race for 400 laps.
All right, let's hear what Martin Truex said about finally getting that first short track win at the Cup level.
Well, it feels awesome, honestly, to finally get that first win, not only on a short track, but here at Richmond at a track where we've been so strong the last couple seasons and led so many laps and had some real heartbreakers, some that were really tough, some really tough losses. And, they sometimes those things are they're hard to get through, but they make you stronger and make you appreciate the good days. So, today we didn't have the best car, and, it just it worked out the way we needed it to, thanks to a great team and a pit crew that, just was – we beat the crap out of them this week, I'll be honest with you. Loose wheel at Bristol last week took us, out of a chance to maybe to win, and we beat them up pretty good all week long, and, they stepped up tonight, and they did a great job. They got us the lead and put us in control of the race and was really the difference. So, just honestly, I'm really proud of those guys. They have a really tough job, and it seems we only talk about them when they screw up. So I'm really happy for them. I'm really proud of them, and really proud to get all these guys on the 19 team and here in Victory Lane, and our first win here at JGR. So it feels incredible.
There you go. A couple things jump out at me there. Yes, pit crew guys are kind of like offensive linemen in football. You never notice until something goes wrong.
Until a holding penalty.
Yeah, until that comes up, and then you're like, ready to cuss that guy. Yep. The other thing is, and it's a phrase we hear quite a lot, and I wanted to get your take on it. We hear a lot of guys, a lot of crew chiefs especially, say, get control of the race. There's a little more to that than just leading, right?
It's a whole lot easier to be the leader and keep those guys behind you than it is to be behind the leader and trying to pass him. It's a whole lot easier to dictate what the guys behind you are doing than it is to try to make the guy in front of you make a mistake. We're talking about some of the world's best drivers here. We're talking about some of the world's best crew members here. And when they make a small snafu like they did in Bristol, it cost that team immensely where you could not work your way back up through traffic. A quick shout out to our guys on the 21 team. Our pit crew was fantastic.
Yeah, a great day.
Kept us in the top 10 all weekend long. They've made a couple of changes over in the 21 car with some changers and some logistics on how they get around the car. It was one of the first weekends where, as a team as well, like those guys, they executed well, and we stayed around the guys that we raced on the track on pit road as well, and that was really important. You weren't picking up 2 or 3 spots on the track, and I'm saying this as a 19 guy and a 21 guy. You picked up 2 or 3 spots on the track. You didn't give them back on pit road and have to pass the same guys again. And that's what Martin Truexer clearly says. He was able to dictate what the guys behind. It's a whole lot harder to pass than it is to be passed.
All right, there you go. We got a break here on MRN Out Loud, but a lot more to come on the program. Cole Custer gets one of those giant cardboard checks in the Xfinity Series. We'll talk a little bit about that. And an off week coming up. We'll talk about the implications of a reset as we take a week off before heading to Talladega.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there. Whether you're running on dirt or running a job, our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, right on our strength.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
For more than 80 years, Detroit Diesel has been the legendary driving force powering many of the best-known trucks on the road. Through our state-of-the-art Detroit technologies in components and safety systems, we've earned our customers' trust as a reliable business partner dedicated to improving their bottom line. It's no wonder they continue to depend on Detroit to keep them safe and efficient on the road. When you demand it all, demand Detroit.
April 15th, if you're checking us out on a Monday, it is tax day. Make sure you get yours in. Have you done it? You all squared
all
away
good.
on your paperwork?
We normally file an extension dealing with some other outside issues, but yeah, we had to do an extension again this year. Everything's good. Everything's lined up. Everything's in order. Everything's been submitted. We just normally do an extension and kind of finish it up in May and June, July, somewhere around there. But yeah, I'm all good.
And the other thing is, if you're viewing on a Monday, it is Bloomin' Monday at Outback Steakhouse because Kevin Harvick got a top 10 finish. Go by on Monday. Tell him, hey, Kevin Harvick did it again. I want that free Bloomin' Onion right there. You can make it happen.
You can mention our names.
You could. Tell him we sent you. Tell him Little Joey sent you, for that matter.
And you're just not playing with my little Joey.
No.
Just can't play with the little Joey.
Only you get to play with your little Joey.
That's
All right,
it.
Let's talk a little bit about some things that have been pressing lately. Qualifying, we saw some changes this week at Richmond because we only had 5 minutes to sit on pit road and play the you go, no you go game.
You know, one of the things we've talked about on the show is the qualifying, the layout of qualifying and the expectations versus the reality of qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
And this weekend was one of the first times we went from 10-minute first segment and 10-minute second segment and 5 minutes. We went to 5, 5, and 5. And the adjustment also for the teams was giving them a 7-minute break. We used to have 7 minutes last year. We went to a 5-minute break this year. And now we're back to 7. So it's a little bit of organizational for TV and for the race teams to have enough time to prepare for the next stage.
Because they're not just sitting there in that break. They're trying to get the motor cooled back down so they
Cool.
can make another run. If you've seen them hauling ice bags around up and down pit road and hooking up hoses to the car, they're trying to cool the motor back down.
Yeah, and the crew chiefs and the drivers are talking off air. They're inside the race car. Some of the drivers even gotten out before in the 7-minute breaks.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about how to make our car faster. It's what we're doing all the time, whether your cars are sitting still on pit road or in the garage or on the track. Is one of the things we're always trying to do is make them faster than everybody else out there. So that's what they're doing.
All right. Well, that leads us to your soapbox.
You know, yeah. So it's an interesting conversation. One of the large rumors this weekend.
I love the popping bubbles.
Yeah. One of the large rumors this weekend is, unfortunately, we're looking at going after Talladega. Of course, we have single car qualifying. One of the things that looking forward to is going back to single car qualifying, and it got me thinking. You know, last night, I've been in my house a little over 20 years. At 1:45 midnight, quick story, my phone goes off. It's an alert. we are now in a tornado warning area. So I get up, I get dressed, and I get on my computer, and I start tracking the weather. Weather really, really bad just west of us, and it's about 5 or 6 minutes away, and I get anticipated how bad the weather's going to be. I go warn my wife, hey, it's really bad, and it comes through, and it rains all kinds of crazy, and it goes through, and I get another warning. We're in a tornado warning. The excitement, the anticipation of that tornado hitting my house was unparalleled because I've never been in one.
You were all jacked up.
I was.
Yep.
And then at the end, when it went through, I felt relieved, right? I didn't feel disappointed, obviously, but it got me thinking that's exactly what happened in California and in Texas and even at Richmond with this qualifying. It got me in thinking, how can people not want to be anticipated, not getting built up to the excitement level of what
Good
qualifying.
way rather than a scary way like with the tornado.
Exactly right. So what you have is now we're talking about getting rid of it and getting rid of that anticipation, get rid of the excitement. Yes, we do as race teams sit at the end of pit road. I get it. But like I mentioned just 5 minutes earlier, if that car is at the racetrack and it's in the garage or it's on pit road or it's on the racetrack itself going around in circles, one of the things we're always trying to do is get better and go faster and beat the guys that were around. Some of that occurs when these cars are sitting still on pit road and not moving during qualifying. We're trying to figure out how to go faster than the next guy. That anticipation of the clock. We're on a clock, 5-minute clock. Click, tick, tick, tick. It's ticking away.
Yeah.
I get ramped up sitting on the
roof. When are they going to go?
When are we going to go? Who's going to be the rabbit? Who's going to go out first? Who's going to go out last? If you go out last, are you going to make it back around for enough laps to get your time in? Are you going to even be able to start a lap? Because now if you don't start a lap, you start in the rear.
Yep.
So those are the kind of things that excite me, that build up. And for anybody to sit there and go, oh, well, the fans are going to lose out because the cars aren't doing anything, then they really don't understand the concept.
There's the anticipation,
exactly
the build-up.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. We don't get the build-up. You're going to go watch Talladega next weekend after Easter, and we're going to have single-car qualifying. We're going to get to cover.
But that was already the case for Talladega.
Exactly right. But the anticipation of single-car qualifying is not there.
Right.
A car rolls off pit road. He goes around the track. He qualifies. Yay, good. Next car rolls off pit road. He qualifies. Did he go faster or slower? That's
and as an
the only
aside, let me
anticipation.
just say that if we're going to have single-car qualifying at a super speedway or at a intermediate track, for the love of God, we don't need multiple rounds of that.
I
if
agree,
you're only going to go single car,
just do one
round does it.
One round, that's it. That's all we need. We end up doing 2 rounds at a super speedway race.
Yeah.
We can't call it restrictor plate racing anymore.
It's tapered spacer now.
We do have the top 12 move on to the second round, which is kind of confusing because they literally there's very little change there. But it'll don't please Daytona listen to me.
This thing
don't get rid of group qualifying. Now, as a individual, I work
You
less.
mean Daytona, the powers that be, not
Yes,
the track.
Yes. Don't get rid of qualifying. Keep it. Love group qualifying. We can work this out. Let the teams figure it out. Don't keep making rules and making it less attractive to the race.
I thought 5-minute rounds was a good solution.
I love it. I mentioned it before. If you don't want us sitting at the end of pit road for group qualifying for 8 minutes because we only needed 2 to get around the track, don't give us 10 minutes. That's the fix.
Yeah, cut it.
Cut it. Exactly. We're going to leave our pit stall. We're going to go down there. We're going to all right, you got 20 seconds to go. Keep going. Whatever it takes. Please.
Yeah, let's keep some version, somehow, some way.
I'm a huge group qualifying person. With the new format, it adds intrigue as an excitement level. I'm more excited about it now than I ever have been.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely something that can be tweaked and fixed rather than just throw our hands up and surrender and go back to the single-car qualifying, and especially multi-rounds of single-car qualifying. All right, a quick break here on MRN Out Loud. We've got a lot to get to. We'll talk some Xfinity racing where another guy has picked up one of those giant cardboard checks and a whole lot more as we head into the off week.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules.
Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
To the fans who've been here from the beginning and the new ones along the way, to those who've witnessed history and those who've made their own, you've made the last 50 years go by fast, and we're not slowing down. This is Talladega.
The 1993 Cup Series season had more than its fair share of twists and turns.
Checkered flag's waving. I look in my mirror, and here's Earnhardt right on my tail, and he goes down low to pass me. And I said, oh, no, you don't.
As Wallace spins, Wallace's car goes on its nose.
Here's stories that you've never heard before in a 10-part series called The 1993 Season, 25 years later.
And Davey was behind me, and we came off the corner, and there's a guy standing in the middle of the racetrack.
You can download it for free on iTunes and at MRN.com right now. Need to find your local MRN radio station? Taking a trip and want to listen to NASCAR races? Go to MRN.com. Click on stations to find all MRN's local radio stations. Plan a trip and map out MRN stations along your route. MRN on your local stations. Tune in.
I don't know. I mean, I wish I could say that I'm putting it towards something cooler than a townhouse, but I mean, it's good. I mean, it's I've never won one before, so it's a really cool thing that Xfinity does. I mean, it's one of the coolest things that we do in this sport is to be able to race for $100,000, and I think that's huge for all our teams and the drivers. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it yet, but we'll figure it out.
There you go. Cole Custer with an extra $100,000 as a part of the Xfinity Series Dash for Cash program. Christopher Bell wins the first one. Cole Custer wins the second one. We still have two more swings at those. I'm kind of torn on these Dash for Cash events because I love the extra drama, the extra incentive on the table, and I love that only Xfinity guys are in the race, but I don't think we should completely get rid of, and you know I've talked about this many times, Cup guys being able to compete, but I love that these races are only Xfinity guys.
Yeah, there's no confusion about it. I'm a huge Cup guy in the Xfinity Series or the Gander Outdoor Truck Series. I like when the higher guys race for obvious reasons. We go back and listen.
So do the drivers.
Exactly right. No, the only people that complain are the ones in the stands, and I just think that's the noisy wheel kind of mentality. Everybody else enjoys it, but to see the equal competition with the Cole Custers and the Christopher Bells and the Austin Cindricks, who came home second over in the Team Penske, he's really coming alive this year.
And he'll get to run for it at Talladega.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
What a great race for that to get that big check at Talladega.
Yeah.
You talk about
you've earned it.
You ramping up some energy, but Christopher Bell. Small issue, but Cole Custer's, the race kind of took if you weren't paying attention, there was a lot of weather around Richmond, and few people thought we'd make the second stage. So during that second stage, when some cautions came out, the strategy changed a little bit. Well, you had to make a decision. Are you going to stay out and only race to the weather, or are you going to stay out and try to race to the end of the race? And the strategy kind of changed a little bit, and it allowed Cole Custer to get up front. And then he, like we talked earlier, was able to dictate the rest of the race and try to
while he was going, this is pretty bad. We got to stop this.
It's going to rain. It's going to rain. But now his biggest decision is again, we've talked about it. How do you get the big check in the bank? You got to get up to the drive-through and I would
just love
window.
to be at a bank sometime when somebody walked in with one of those and just to the teller.
Exactly,
yeah.
Right.
Oh, did I forget to sign the back?
Sign the back in big swoopy letters. Yes, that'd be awesome.
That would be fantastic. It's a lot of fun to see and a lot more to come from the Xfinity there as we move forward to Talladega coming up. We talked a little bit about the qualifying situation. They've shortened it to 5 minutes. We maybe expect some more tweaks as we continue forward. But one of the things that was very interesting to me when we had Brad Keselowski on last week talking about Talladega with the changes that we're going to see there, a test after Daytona where they're going to have a bigger spoiler. We move to the tapered spacer now. Things might be a little different, and Brad Keselowski told us he wouldn't be surprised to see tandem racing come back. That blew me away.
And it's really because we have so many different rule changes. We've gotten rid of some of the rules that they added to eliminate tandem racing with bumper heights and how big the spoilers were and the cooling of the cars. A lot of that has gone away with this new configuration of race cars because now we get rid of the restrictor plates and put a tapered spacer on. We've got a big honking spoiler on the back. The bumpers are a little bit higher because we were dragging the ground so much before. So we've actually raised the back of the car up. And what that does, that allows the bumper to line back up better with the nose. So the ability to get in behind with the bigger spoiler and draft up and have alignment on your front bumper to his rear bumper and having a little more cooling really allows these guys the opportunity, we believe, to be able to tandem or pod race, as I've always called it. And I use pod because that's one syllable. Tandem is 2.
There you go. That's efficient.
So, and everybody knew if I said there were 3 pods coming, they knew what it meant, right? It was so that's kind of my mentality. But I look forward to it. I'm going to predict right now that I almost see another small rule change coming. And I could see it because we only had 4 cars at the Daytona
Such as,
test.
like what are you thinking?
I could see a smaller tapered spacer. I could see a spoiler change. I could something along the lines to control the speed more, or a simple,
after we've seen the cars on the track a little bit in practice,
or something as similar to adding to like we do in the Xfinity / Gander Mountain Truck Series. No locking bumpers.
Okay.
Right. And then what that does is I can't stand that rule because being able to police the rule of locking bumpers is crazy. You can't police it.
Yeah, a bump and a lock is kind of worse than calling a block and a charge in basketball.
Yeah, and or a travel, which is never called either, right? Because the car number 1 is in front, car number 2 is behind. If a car number 2 locks, they penalize both cars. Like I had nothing to do with him. I couldn't hit the eject button and eject the guy off my bumper.
Or the James Bond oil slick or something like that.
So the whole policing that rule is crazy. I don't mind it in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series because I think it reduces the wrecks. What I would like to see them do is with 20 to go, you can push all you want.
Here we go.
Because what happens, in essence, as we've seen in the past, push all they want, nobody polices it. We can't. It's too hard to police the entire field.
Because so many are doing it, for one thing,
You'd have to black flag the entire field. So I could see a procedure change or a physical change of the race cars if the tapered spacer, because again, everything's predicated on keeping these cars a little bit slower, and that's why we made the rule change after Daytona. The speeds were a little bit higher, the horsepower numbers were a little bit higher than they expected in the test, so it'll be interesting. It's not going to surprise me to see it. We've seen it in the past. We've seen a restrictor plate rule change or a spoiler change or something along those lines. I believe we're going to have a big group on Friday, whether it's all the Fords get together or the Chevrolets and Toyotas race together, like we saw in Daytona in practice. I think we're going to see a little bit of that going on Friday because these teams, again, their notes from previous years are invisible. They're pointless. They have no useful purpose because this will be the first time ever in this configuration at this racetrack with the big spoiler and the big radiator pans and the big tapered spacer. Be the first race we have not run at Daytona and Talladega with a restrictor plate in 15, 20 years.
And those spoilers are so big now that the top of them at least has to be clear. So the driver can see through it to see the car behind him. That's how giant these things are now. Make sure you tune in next week as MRN heads to Talladega Super as part of Procore Week right here on the Motor Racing Network. And you can always catch all of our stuff, all of our podcasts at MRN.com, the MRN Facebook page, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. We've got more coming right up.
A name says a lot.
I'm Kyle. I'll be taking your order.
When you meet someone named Kyle, as in Kyle Busch, as in rowdy, as in 8 wins last season and more than 50 career wins, as in donuts for days. So, if the humble name Kyle doesn't sound so humble to you, you're family now. The summer's heating up. Follow what could be the Toyota Racing family's best season ever at toyotaracing.com. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark for the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, Inc.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules.
Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
Hi folks, Mike Bagley here. At MRN, we rely on equipment from Racing Electronics.
Joey Logano to the lead on the back straightaway.
Racing Electronics has scanners and headphones. We can listen to every uncensored conversation between driver and crew.
You won the championship, baby, yeah!
And when we need live audio, in-car cameras, and up-to-the-second statistics, we use their latest handheld unit called Legend. To learn more about these products and many others, visit racingelectronics.com. Racing Electronics, the official two-way communication partner of MRN.
MRN presented by Outback Steakhouse. If you're watching or listening on a Monday, head on over to Outback because Kevin Harvick got another top 10 at Richmond. That means you can get a free Bloomin' Onion by going by and telling him Harvick did it again. Give me the free stuff. All right, we've got an off week coming up, Joey, as we move toward Talladega and the remainder of the schedule. Is this a good chance for teams to kind of assess and reset and reevaluate and tweak some things ready for this next grouping of tracks?
You know, we've run 9 races this year, and we've covered, except for a road course, every kind of track we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, the race teams have only seen 1.5 miles that they've been able to work on their cars, because the first 1.5 miles we saw were Vegas, the 2-mile track.
Those cars were already built ahead of time.
We were already built in the previous portion, the early portion of 2019, before we kind of figured out where we were. This weekend now, we were able to race Richmond. We have the off weekend for Easter, but then we go Talladega and then Dover. Okay, your Dover car you're going to have built. But now we go to Kansas and then the 2 Charlotte races. So this really allows the guys to sit back, take all the notes from Texas and what they've learned, what didn't work at Vegas, because that's how we had our cars built. So now you have 2.
That was your best guess at the time. Now you've got some more data.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So now you have 2 different platforms, if you will. You had your first part of the year, then you have Texas. And you're definitely making notes and making those changes to how well you did at Texas versus how bad you did at Texas and who beat you and who you were able to beat. So the next 3 races we have will be very interesting. I think we're going to have a small anomaly for the All-Star race. NASCAR hasn't officially announced it yet. We're going to have a small configuration change like they did last year when we had this new configuration.
To try something out.
To try something else. They're going to utilize the All-Star package to try some different aero stuff. Kudos to them. But we do have Kansas. We do have Charlotte, and then the really big track that we're looking forward to.
That Charlotte weekend, you're going to be off, right? You're gonna just hang out.
It's just off. Yeah, that's
since you're at home, it's no big deal.
It's no big deal. It's just an off weekend. I might go to the track.
That's exciting.
Yeah, right. But then we have Michigan and then the Sonoma. So it's an interesting series of tracks within the next 4 or 5 weeks to allow these guys to get built up, get their inventory going on, and then we actually have to go back out west for a little bit for that Sonoma race. So it does take a lot of time, and this weekend off allows the teams to catch their breath from February till now.
If you're not a team or a driver who races for Joe Gibbs Racing or Team Penske, what are you going to do to try and catch these guys? They've got a stranglehold now on victory lane, 11 straight, either from JGR or Team Penske.
You know, it's interesting because every single time we show up, one of the things you're concerned about is winning a race. That's, again, we mentioned it earlier in the show. Every time we're at the track, in the garage, on pit road, on the track, you're trying to beat the guys behind you. So with the Penske group and the Gibbs group dominating the last 11 races, you kind of get overshadowed with who's really performing well. Kevin Harvick should have won Bristol, could have won Bristol, had a very, very, very fast race car.
There's all the penalty stuff at the beginning and then a miscue on pit road. Yeah.
He had a very fast race car. Eric Almirola has been right behind him. Boyer was nipping on the deck lid of Martin Truex for the last 10 laps at Richmond. So those are good problems to have, even though you haven't
You're right there.
You're right there. You know your cars are capable of winning this race. You just haven't been able to execute a complete race. And that's what Martin Truex did. Unfortunately, Kevin Harvick did not do. You know, is execute from start to finish and be able to pull off victory lane. It's still very difficult to win these races, but to have performance like Stewart-Haas Racing, I don't think they're concerned. All of their cars are performing better. We saw, in my opinion, the Hendrick Motorsports guys perform a little bit better at Richmond. Yeah, they didn't,
and that's been incrementally through the season.
Exactly right. But all 4 of their cars were from the 10th to the 20th. They were all in that window. Now that's a bonus because you didn't have cars in the top 5 and cars in the last 25. You're going,
you got
what's
more of a
wrong?
baseline. Yeah.
Exactly right. So if Chase Elliott's able to win a race and the other 3 are in the top outside the top 20, you don't know whether it was the cars, whether it was the mechanical arrangement, or the drivers are doing bad. You don't know what it is. But when all 4 teams can be on top of each other, you kind of have a better direction of where you need to improve on.
It's not like you're all over the map and try and pick which one is better.
Exactly right. You know, we saw in the past races, Front Row Motorsports, Front Row has done a really good job at Michael McDowell and those guys over there. They had a bad weekend at Richmond. A couple guys on Twitter mentioned, we built a car as a company, and they all performed. Unfortunately, it was poorly, but they were able to go back and go, all 3 of our cars were the same all of a sudden.
But here's where we went wrong.
And that's why it's important. So even when things don't work well, that's a good thing if you do it as a company, because then you can make improvements off what didn't work.
Is there something glaring that jumps out at you that the Gibbs cars or the Penske cars are doing that the others are not? Is it as simple as execution, or is there more to it than that?
Well, when we go back and look, the only guy that makes mistakes on a continual basis that's won a race this year is really Denny Hamlin.
And he's won two.
Two, exactly right.
Yeah.
No mistakes at Daytona. But when you look at the execution and the level of mistakes, Kyle Busch had a really fast car at Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
He could have easily won that race, except made a mistake.
Yeah.
So when we look at the cars that are on Victory Lane list, their mistake levels are lower than all the rest. And that's what you look at. You can't, at this point in time, the guys that have won these races, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., they're really good drivers. Any of those guys can win any weekend. So when you make a mistake, whether it's on pit road or whether it's a crew chief strategy car or a driver makes an error on pit road, you take yourself out of that team and you're forced to try to beat those guys again. And it's really, really difficult.
You're giving away whatever advantage you may have had.
You may have had, right.
Yeah.
We heard Truex talk about being able to be out front and dictate the race. Well, if you're making up laps or making up spaces that you lost on pit road, you've given that ability up.
You can't really do that because you're fighting all the other to try and overcome that.
Yep.
As we move forward now, heading into Talladega and the other races that you mentioned, with the qualifying changes that we've seen and where we are at this point in the season, do you anticipate more major changes, or are we kind of set now?
Man, I hope we don't have any more rule changes. The teams will go crazy.
Other than the minor thing you're thinking at Dega.
Anytime we have what's called a rule change, the teams spend more money. We've already have our inventory. We have our direction. I hope we don't see any rule changes. Things are going well. I think this new configuration, NASCAR has to be extremely happy with what they saw at Texas. I think the next variable will be Talladega and how that works, and we actually open up the carousel at Sonoma, and that'll be interesting to see where we go.
Yeah, a lot of fun to see there. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of MRN Out Loud. Don't forget now, next week, no race over the Easter weekend. We're going to do a little reset. Adam Alexander from Fox Sports is going to join us next week to talk about kind of where we are and where we're going from this point. Don't forget NASCAR Live every Tuesday night at 7 Eastern. From there, you can catch it at MRN.com. Our truck series, the Gander Outdoor Truck Series podcast, drops again every Tuesday night. Make sure you check those out. It's all coming up this week at MRN. Make sure you're with us. I'm Woody. He's Joey. We'll see you next week.